A single second can feel like an infinity when it carries the weight of a life-changing choice and a deep, raw emotion. We capture those eternal moments and turn them into cinematic art for your pleasure. Subscribe today and explore the infinite nature of the human story.
The morning I almost lost everything began the same way the past 16 months had, with coffee I barely tasted and a drive I barely remembered taking. Every Sunday I went to the Veterans Memorial on the east side of Glendale Park. My son Michael's name is on the third panel, row 7. He was 26 when his convoy hit a roadside bomb outside Kandahar. That was 9 years ago. And I still haven't figured out how to spend a Sunday any other way. I bring 2 cups of coffee from the gas station on Route 9, one for me. One I leave on the base of the wall. It probably looks strange to people walking by. I don't care. I'd been standing there for about 40 minutes when my phone buzzed. I ignored it. I always ignore it at the wall. Whatever it was could wait. I talked to my son for a while, the way I always do. Told him his boy was doing well. Told him I missed his mother. Told him the Cardinals were having another terrible season. Same things I always say. Then I drove home. Beverly Marsh was standing at the edge of her driveway when I turned onto Elmwood Court. She was in her housecoat, which was unusual because Beverly was not a housecoat in the driveway kind of woman. She was 70 years old, sharp as a tack, drove a clean white Buick, and kept the best garden on the street. We'd been neighbors for 12 years. When my wife Carol got sick, Beverly brought food twice a week without being asked, and never once made us feel like charity cases. Good people are rarer than they should be. She stepped toward my car before I'd even turned off the engine. I rolled down the window. "Beverly? Everything all right?" She looked over her shoulder toward my house, then back at me. "Frank, don't go in yet. Please, come inside first." Something in her voice made me get out of the car without asking why. Her kitchen smelled like cinnamon and dryer sheets. She closed the door behind us and didn't say anything for a moment. Just stood there with her hands pressed flat on the counter like she was steadying herself. "Renee's been at your house since 9 this morning," she said. "She had a man with her. Older, in a blazer. They came in through the side door. I felt something shift in my chest. She has a key. She used to help when Carol was sick. I never asked for it back." Beverly nodded slowly. "I know. I wasn't trying to spy, Frank. I was deadheading my roses by the fence and I could see straight into your kitchen. So when I saw them spreading papers out all over your table, I thought it was strange, so I kept watching." She paused, and then I started recording. She held out her phone. Her hand wasn't entirely steady. The video was shot through the fence slats, maybe 30 feet away, but the sound was clearer than I would have expected. My kitchen, my table, my daughter-in-law Renee sitting across from a man I didn't recognize, heavy-set, gray-haired, bifocals with a stack of documents between them that was at least 2 inches thick. The man's voice came through the speaker first. "The cognitive evaluation is already on file with the court. Dr. Patel signed off last Tuesday. And it says what we need it to say." Renee's voice. "Careful. Low. Moderate memory impairment. Impaired judgment. Early-stage executive dysfunction. Enough for the judge to take it seriously." He tapped the papers. "Combined with the incident reports from the pharmacy and the bank, we have a strong case for a conservatorship." Renee leaned back in my kitchen chair, my chair, the one I'd sat in every morning for 11 years. "How long until we have full control?" "If we file this week, the preliminary hearing is in about 3 weeks. Once you're named conservator, you have authority over all financial decisions. The house, the retirement accounts, the life insurance payout from Carol, all of it. The court will require quarterly reports, but those are easy to manage." "What about Connor?" The man shrugged. "Your son's share of any inheritance is held in trust until he's 25. You'd manage the trust. He's 22. Renee was quiet for a moment. "By the time he's old enough to question anything, it'll already be done. That's the idea." Beverly stopped the video. She was watching my face. I don't know how long I stood there. It felt like a long time, 32 years I'd spent running into burning buildings, and I had never once felt what I felt standing in Beverly's kitchen looking at that phone screen. Not fear exactly. Something colder than fear. The specific sensation of realizing the ground beneath you has been hollow for a long time and you're only just now hearing the echo. I looked up at Beverly. "The incident at the pharmacy," I said. 3 months ago, I went to pick up Carol's leftover prescriptions to donate them, and the pharmacist got confused about the name on the account. I told Renee about it because she offered to help sort it out. She must have documented it as something else. Beverly finished quietly. I nodded. The bank, too. I transferred money to a new savings account last spring, and the teller flagged it as unusual behavior. I explained it. Renee was there with me that day. Beverly reached out and put her hand over mine. She's been building a file for months. I pulled out a chair and sat down because I needed to. "Can you send me that video?" "Already did." And I made copies. 3 of them. Different places. I looked at her. This 70-year-old woman in her housecoat with cinnamon still warm in the air. "Why are you doing this for me?" Her eyes went soft in a way I hadn't seen before. "You know the Dewhurst fire. On Caldwell Street. 2019. I remembered it. Old Victorian. Electrical fire in the walls. Spread faster than it should have because of the insulation. 3 units. I'd been off duty, but I lived 4 blocks away, and I heard the trucks. My nephew was on the 3rd floor," she said. "You went in twice. Nobody asked you to. You just went. I didn't remember thinking about it at the time. You see smoke, and you move. That's all it ever was. I've owed you something for 5 years. Beverly said. "I'm glad I was in the yard this morning." I didn't trust my voice, so I just nodded. She straightened up and looked at me with the same practical expression she used when she was deciding which roses needed to come out. "Now, what are you going to do?" I didn't go home that night. Renee had a key, and I didn't want to change that yet. Didn't want to tip her off. I drove to a Holiday Inn out by the interstate, paid cash, and spent the night at the small desk by the window with my laptop open and Beverly's video on loop. I pulled up every financial account I had. At first it looked normal. Then I looked closer. Renee had been added as an authorized user on my main checking account 6 weeks ago. The paperwork had her signature, and what was supposed to be mine. I didn't recognize the branch listed. I'd never been to that location. My brokerage account was the same. Her name, quietly threaded in. Not a joint owner, just enough access to initiate transfers with proper authorization. I went back further. Small withdrawals over the past 4 months. Nothing dramatic. $40 here, $120 there. The kind of amounts that look like ATM fees if you're not paying close attention. I'd been paying close attention to the wrong things. I thought about the man at my kitchen table. Dr. Patel. I didn't know a Dr. Patel, but I knew Renee had suggested I see someone about my memory after I'd mentioned forgetting where I put my reading glasses twice in 1 week. Normal thing. I'd laughed it off and she'd looked at me with this careful, worried expression that I now understood differently. I hadn't forgotten anything, but the evaluation would say otherwise. My phone showed 3 texts from Connor. "Grandpa, you okay? Mom said you missed dinner. Call me when you can." I sat looking at his name for a long time. Connor Michael DeLuca, named for a grandfather he'd never met and a father he'd lost when he was 13. I'd raised him alongside Renee after Michael died. He was a good kid. Quiet, steady. The kind of young man who thought before he spoke. He looked like his father in the eyes. Did he know what his mother was planning? I couldn't imagine it, but then I couldn't have imagined this morning either. I texted back. "I'm fine. Phone died earlier. Talk tomorrow. Love you." His reply came fast, the way his always did. "Love you too. Don't be a stranger, old man." I put the phone face down on the desk and didn't sleep. By 6 in the morning, I had a list. The first call I made was to Dr. Susan Holt, a neuropsychologist at Scottsdale Medical who I'd met years ago at a benefit for the department. I explained the situation in as few words as I could. She didn't ask unnecessary questions. She had me in her office by 2 that afternoon. The evaluation took most of the day. Memory recall, processing speed, executive function, attention, language. When it was finished, Dr. Holt sat across from me with a look I recognized from years of delivering bad news to good people, except this time, the news wasn't bad. Your cognitive function is well within normal range, she said. Above average in several categories, particularly working memory and problem solving. Whoever generated that other evaluation either made significant errors or was not evaluating you honestly. I had her put everything in writing, notarized, time-stamped, with her credentials attached. She made 2 copies on the spot and handed them both to me without being asked. "Good luck," she said when I left. The way she said it made clear she understood what I was walking into. Second, I needed someone in the house who wouldn't tip Renee off. I called a locksmith I'd worked with on a department property years ago, someone I trusted. He met me at the house at midnight. The side door Renee had used that morning got a new deadbolt with a key only I had. I left her key working on the front door, so she wouldn't know anything had changed. While I was inside, I set up cameras. I'd done a home security course after Carol died, never got around to installing anything. I installed it now. 4 small wireless units, kitchen, living room, my home office, the hallway. They fed to an encrypted cloud server. Password was Carol's maiden name and the year we got married. Nobody was guessing that. Third, I needed an attorney. Jim Gallagher had handled my will, Carol's estate, and the trust we'd set up for Connor. He was 65, semi-retired, and the kind of lawyer who thought slowly and never lost. I met him at his office the next morning and put everything on his desk. Beverly's video, the financial account records, the duplicate signature paperwork, Dr. Holt's evaluation alongside a copy of the fraudulent one I'd obtained from the court, filing through a records request. Jim read through everything the way he read through everything, without expression, without hurry. When he set the last page down, he looked at me over the top of his glasses. "This is elder financial abuse. The forged authorization forms alone are criminal. The medical fraud compounds it substantially." He folded his hands. "I can file to contest the conservatorship petition and request an emergency stay. That buys us time. While the court is sorting out the procedural challenge, you give me 2 weeks to build the full case." 2 weeks, I said. "Maybe 3. Don't change anything visible. Don't confront her yet. Let the cameras run. She'll figure out something's wrong. Not if you act normal." He looked at me steadily. "Can you do that?" I'd walked into burning buildings 32 years without letting anyone see me hesitate. "Yes," I said. "Good. Be careful, Frank. People who plan this carefully don't give up easily." I drove home and made dinner. Steak, roasted potatoes, the way I always did on Tuesdays. Like nothing had happened. Like my world hadn't been quietly hollowed out from underneath me for months. Day 2. The camera in the kitchen caught Renee letting herself in through the front door at 11 in the morning while I was at the hardware store. She walked through the rooms slowly. The way you walk through a place you're already imagining belongs to you. She opened the drawer in my office where I kept the insurance documents and photographed several pages with her phone. Then she stood in front of the framed photos on the hallway wall. Connor's school pictures, our family Christmas photos, a picture of Michael in his uniform, and stared at them for a long moment before she left. I watched the footage that night in my truck, parked down the street. I didn't know what to feel. Day 4. Renee and the man from Beverly's video, I'd identified him by then as Brad Foley. A financial consultant she'd been seeing for 2 years were in my living room. I was supposedly at my Tuesday morning coffee group, which Renee knew about. Brad's voice through the audio feed. "The hearing's in 16 days. The stay request slows it down, but it doesn't stop it. If Gallagher gets aggressive, we might need the doctor to testify in person. Patel will do whatever I ask," Renee said. "How much does he owe you?" "Enough." She picked up a photograph from the side table. Carol and me at the Grand Canyon, the summer before she got sick. "Frank trusts me completely. He always has. After Michael died, he used to say I was the only family he had left besides Connor. She set the photo down. He never even questioned why I wanted to be added to the accounts. You told him it was to help with the bills after Carol. He believed me. A pause. He's not stupid. He's just lonely. I sat in my truck for a long time after that part. The loneliness she'd used like a key. Day 6. Connor came by. I watched through the kitchen feed, heart in my throat, as my grandson walked through the house with his mother. He was quiet. That quiet he got when something was bothering him, the same quiet his father used to get. Mom, I don't understand why we need court involvement. Grandpa seems completely fine to me. You don't see him every day, sweetheart. I see him every week. We watched the game together Sunday. And did he remember the score from the week before? A pause. He's 66. I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday. Connor. Renee's voice went gentle in the way it went gentle when it wanted something. The doctor's report is serious. I'm not doing this to hurt your grandfather. I'm doing it to protect him. To protect everything your dad worked for. That your grandfather worked for. Do you want some stranger taking advantage of him because he's getting older and he's alone? Silence. No, Connor said finally. But I want to talk to him about it. Of course. When the time is right. Right now he gets defensive. If we bring it up directly. The doctor warned me about that. I watched my grandson's face on the small screen. Watched the doubt move through it and not quite leave. He didn't look convinced. But he didn't push back either. And Renee knew how to read that as a door. There was something in his eyes, though. Something she hadn't closed all the way. Day 8. The recording I'd been waiting for. Renee and Brad in my kitchen. Late. They must have thought the house was empty because they didn't bother to keep their voices down. How much are we actually talking about? Brad asked. The house is worth $480. The retirement accounts combined are about $900,000. The life insurance payout from Carol was $250, sitting in a separate account. The trust for Connor is another $300, but I control that until he's 25. She paused. Just under $2 million total. And your cut. It's not a cut, Brad. It's my son's inheritance. My son's estate, passed to his widow, which is me, which is completely legal once I have conservatorship. And Connor's portion. Connor gets what Connor gets when Connor turns 25. 3 years from now. A lot can change in 3 years. Brad laughed at something low and private. You're something. You know that. I've been planning this since Carol's funeral, Renee said. I'm not something. I'm patient. I backed up that footage and sent copies to Jim, to Beverly, and to a secure email account with a password no one alive knew but me. Then I sat in the dark for a while thinking about the word patient. About 16 months of casseroles and check-ins and offers to help me organize Carol's things. About all the ways someone can be kind to you with something else entirely behind their eyes. I called Connor the next morning and asked if he wanted to meet for breakfast. He showed up at the diner on 5th Street, looking like he hadn't slept well. We ordered eggs and didn't say much for a few minutes. Then he said, "Something's going on, isn't it?" He was his father's son. Michael had always been able to read a room in the first 30 seconds. I hadn't inherited that from anybody. Clearly Connor had. I slid my phone across the table. "I need you to watch something," I said. "All of it. Don't say anything until it's done." He watched the kitchen recording from day 8. Then the one from day 4. Then Beverly's original video from the morning at her kitchen fence. His face went through several things I recognized from his childhood. The crumple before he cried when he was 7, the stillness before he got angry when he was 15, and then settled into something older and harder that I hadn't seen in him before. He put the phone down and didn't look at me for a moment. "She told me you were getting confused," he said finally. "That you'd been forgetting things. That you needed help managing everything. I know. She told me to give you space. That visiting too much would stress you out. I know that too." His jaw tightened. "She was keeping me away from you." "Yes." He pressed his fingers against the table like he was trying to keep himself still. Grandpa, I didn't. I swear I didn't know what she was actually doing. I just thought she was worried about you. I thought I was respecting what you needed. I know you didn't know. I reached across and put my hand over his fist on the table. That's why I'm showing you now. Not to blame you. To give you the choice I didn't have. He looked up. His eyes were red at the corners. What do you need? I need you to act normal around her for 3 more days. Don't change anything. Don't let her know. You've seen this. He was quiet. And then Thursday evening, you come to the house. I'm going to invite her over to discuss family matters. She'll come. She always comes when she thinks she's managing something. Connor nodded slowly. His father's stillness. His father's jaw. I'll be there. There's one more thing. I looked at him. I need you to know that no matter what happens in that room, what she did doesn't define you. You're not her plan. You're Michael's son. You always have been. He couldn't talk for a moment. Just nodded. We sat and finished our eggs. Outside the diner window, Glendale was going about its Tuesday morning. Nobody in there knew what was coming on Thursday. I thought about what Beverly had said. Some debts you don't forget. I thought about the wall in the park with Michael's name on it. About the cups of coffee I left that probably got cold within the hour. I thought, I will not lose what he left behind. Not to patience with something else behind its eyes. Thursday at 7. I told Renee I wanted to discuss updating the family trust, that Jim Gallagher had some questions about the documents. That brought her. I knew it would she'd want to be in the room for anything involving the trust. She came with Brad. Of course she did. He walked in behind her like a second shadow. Pleasant, professional, hand extended. Mr. DeLuca, good to finally meet you properly. I shook his hand. Come in. Sit down. They sat on the couch. I stood near the fireplace. Beverly was 2 miles away, watching through the kitchen camera feed on her laptop. Jim Gallagher was parked on the street with Detective Paula Rodriguez from the Glendale Financial Crimes Unit. And Connor was in the back bedroom. Door closed. Listening. Renee looked around the room. Is Jim here? Not yet, I said. We have a few minutes. I wanted to talk to you first. She smiled. The careful smile. Of course. What's on your mind, Frank? I know about the conservatorship petition. Not a flicker. Not a single one. I gave her credit for that. I don't know what you mean. I turned on the television and connected my phone. Beverly's video played first. The kitchen table, the papers, Dr. Patel's name, the conversation about the house and the accounts, and Connor's trust. Renee's smile didn't move. Where did you get that? My neighbor recorded it. That's illegal. You can't use. We checked. Recording on private property where the subject has no reasonable expectation of privacy is legally permitted in Arizona. I switched to the Day 8 footage. Her voice filling the room. $2 million. Patient. Since Carol's funeral. Brad stood up. This is harassment. We're leaving. Sit down, I said. Please. The front door opened. Jim Gallagher walked in first. Behind him, Detective Rodriguez. 2 uniformed officers in the doorway. Renee's composure fractured for the first time. Just around the eyes. Frank, think about what you're doing. I'm your family. I'm Michael's wife. Everything I've done has been for this family. My son has been dead for 9 years, I said. Everything you've done since his funeral has been for yourself. You don't understand. Mom. Connor stepped out from the hallway. Renee went completely still. Connor. Her voice shifted immediately. Naturally, the way it must have shifted 1,000 times. Warm. Worried. Sweetheart, what are you? I watched the videos, he said. All of them. Whatever your grandfather told you, he's not well. He's confused about. Stop. His voice was steady. Not angry. Just done. I grew up watching you. I know every version of your voice. I know when you're actually worried about me, and I know when you're managing me. He looked at her directly. This is the second one. She stared at her son for a moment. Something moved across her face. That might have been the closest thing to real feeling the room had seen from her all evening. Then it closed. Detective Rodriguez stepped forward. Renee DeLuca, Bradley Foley, you're being detained for questioning in connection with allegations of elder financial abuse, fraud, and falsification of legal documents. She looked at them evenly. We'll also be contacting Dr. Patel's licensing board this evening. Brad said something about attorneys. Renee said nothing. She walked out of my house between two uniformed officers without looking back at her son. Connor and I stood in the living room after everyone else had gone. The house felt very quiet. He sat down on the couch and put his head in his hands. I sat beside him. We stayed like that for a while. I kept giving her the benefit of the doubt, he said. Every time something felt off, I told myself I was being unfair to her. That she'd been through a lot. That grief makes people do strange things. She had been through a lot, I said. That part was real, but it doesn't explain what she chose to do with it. He looked up. How long did you know something was wrong? Before Beverly told you, I thought about it. About the uneasy feeling I'd been brushing aside. The small things that hadn't quite added up but that I'd talked myself out of. I think I knew for a while. I just didn't want to know. What do you do with that? You learn from it. You stop dismissing the feeling in your gut when it keeps coming back. He leaned back into the cushions and looked at the ceiling. What happens now? Now we wait for the courts. Jim says the case is strong. Brad's financial records alone are significant, and the forensic handwriting analysis on the account paperwork is conclusive. I looked at him. And you move forward. That's what happens now. The trial was 11 weeks later. Renee and Brad were both convicted. Renee received 4 years on the elder financial abuse and fraud charges. Brad received 6. The court took a harder view of his professional role in structuring the scheme. Dr. Patel surrendered his medical license before his separate hearing and reached a plea agreement. His career was finished. The conservatorship petition was dismissed entirely. Every financial account was restored to its original state. The unauthorized signatures were vacated. Connor moved into the apartment 2 blocks from me in the spring. He got a job with an engineering firm downtown. On Sundays, he came over and we cooked. Sometimes we drove together to the memorial in the park. He'd never been to that wall. Not since he was too young to understand what it meant. And the first time he stood in front of his father's name, he was quiet for a long time. I stood beside him and didn't say anything. Some things don't need words around them. About 4 months after the trial, he and I were sitting on the back porch in the evening when he asked me something I'd been expecting. Do you blame yourself, he said, for not seeing it sooner? I watched the light go out of the sky over the neighbor's roofline. I've thought about that a lot. I think I wanted to believe she was who I needed her to be. After Michael. After Carol. I needed there to be family left, and so I saw what I needed to see. That's not a flaw. That's just being human. Maybe. But it almost cost me everything. I turned toward him. The warning signs were there. The isolation, the small financial moves, the offered help that came with strings. I couldn't see yet. I missed them because I trusted her and because I was grieving, and because lonely people sometimes see what they want to see instead of what's actually there. Connor was quiet for a moment. Beverly saw it. Beverly wasn't grieving. Beverly was paying attention. I thought about her that morning in her housecoat at the edge of the driveway, moving faster than she had in years. There are people in your life who'll stand between you and something coming for you without being asked. You don't always know who they are until the moment arrives. And how do you find those people? You be one yourself, I said. That's the only way I know. We sat on the porch until the sky went completely dark. The neighbors on the left had their kitchen light on. Beverly's house was quiet. Her garden visible even in the low light. Everything in its right place and tended to. I thought about Michael, about Carol, about the weight of 16 months of grief that Renee had used the way you'd use a tool, slipping it under something solid to pry it loose. I thought about the wall in the park with 2 cups of coffee every Sunday, one of which always got cold. I thought, The people we lose don't leave us with nothing. They leave us with the people who love them too. Connor reached over and put his hand briefly on my shoulder the way his father used to. Then he stood up and started clearing the glasses. "Same time next Sunday?" he said. "Same time next Sunday," I said. "There is something nobody tells you about getting older, and it is this. It is not your mind that needs protecting most. It is your loneliness. Because loneliness is the door that certain people know how to walk through. They come in behind grief, behind the ordinary kindnesses, behind the names of people you've lost. They speak in the language of concern. They come with casseroles and offers to help and patient smiles. And by the time you understand what they are actually carrying, they've already been in your house for months. Watch the small things, the account you didn't change. The name added quietly to a document. The visit you were gently talked out of making. The feeling that something isn't right. That you dismiss. Because you don't want it to be true. I'm 66 years old. I spent 32 years running toward things other people ran away from. I made it out of burning buildings I had no business being in. I outlived my son and my wife, and the version of myself that thought he knew what was coming. What almost finished me wasn't fire. It was patience with something else behind its eyes. Pay attention. Trust your gut. Call your attorney before you think you need to. And hold on to the people who show up at your driveway in their housecoat before you've even turned off the engine, because those are the ones who actually mean it. Drop a 2 in the comments if you made it to the end. I'd genuinely like to know you were here.